What is up, everybody? Corey Van Castle Cook here of the Movie Chumps, and I just got out of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So this is my out of the theater reaction, my thoughts on this film. Overall, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Action was pretty spectacular, as they always tend to be with these Mission Impossible films. I kind of want to start out with some of the negatives first, because this definitely isn't the tightest of Mission Impossible films. The problems that things I had some issues with. Way too much exposition. There's a lot of exposition in this movie, especially in the first hour or so. It's extremely talky. Not that movies can't be talky, but there's an ungodly amount of exposition. That first hour actually kind of dragged a little bit in some ways, which is weird to say for a Mission Impossible film, but they did a greatest hits, kind of like callbacks to some of the previous Mission Impossible films to make sure that everybody was, I guess, on the same page and didn't forget the movie from 2 years ago, which was a little bit strange to me. Also, this movie is too long. It's too long by about 20-25 minutes or so. That definitely could have absolutely been tighter in this instance. And here's something that's gonna sound weird. This movie is somewhat goofy and didn't need to be. There's some humor stuff in this that I just think did not work at all. However, having said that, after the first hour, this movie cruises, and it really kicks into gear. From after that first hour, I absolutely loved the film. The action is just intense. There's some gobbledygook in terms of the entity, and that just constantly keeps getting brought up. What if the entity wants us to do this or whatever? And how they end up trying to ultimately overcome the entity is a little bit convoluted, and I had to kind of play back what was going on in my brain a little bit to kind of get it, where it needed to be. But Christopher McQuarrie, he just knows how to do these films, and he's once again crafted an excellent film where, again, how they interplay with the editing, especially during certain fight scenes, and also the final action scenes that happen towards the end of this film are just chef's kiss. A delight. Excellent soundtrack as always. Really builds the tension. There's yet to be a Mission Impossible where I didn't think that the soundtrack was used in an excellent way, and that continues here. Tom Cruise is, of course, Tom Cruise. He's got a Titanic ego for sure, and this is maybe a little bit overindulgent, this film, in some ways, but I love to follow Ethan Hunt. He's the hero everybody wants, and he kicks ass. 30 years into this situation. Haley Atwell returns as Grace. She's fantastic. Of course, we got Simon Pegg as Benji, and a really heartfelt performance from Simon Pegg as Benji, but also Ving Rhames as Luther. What kind of transpires with him, especially his relationship with Ethan, is really heartfelt. And actually, believe it or not, I heard a couple people crying in the theater when I watched this one for some of the situations that they did. This is in a lot of ways somewhat of an anti-AI type of film. Angela Bassett is great as the president as well. She's really good in these situations. The supporting cast really is excellent, and there's actually. This is what's interesting, is that there is a very significant character from the very first film that plays a very significant role in this final film, and I'd always kind of wondered what happened to him, and what actually ended up happening to him was what I predicted would happen to him in terms of how his life and situation played out and the reckoning he ends up having with Ethan ultimately. It was great to see him have a really significant role, actually, especially towards the end of the film. But overall, if this is going to be, the final go round, which it could be the way it ends, it could be, it could not. It's kind of just up to your interpretation and the way Ethan's team kind of meets at the end. But if this is a final way to go out, there could be worse ones. This is definitely not the best in the Mission Impossible series. I think that still goes to Fallout, and I liked Dead Reckoning much, much more than I did this film. But overall, still enjoyable, still a good time at the movies. Action sequences are insane, especially the stuff that goes on with the Sevastopol submarine and what Ethan has to do to break into the damn thing. And the biplane thing that got teased in trailers and on commercials and stuff, believe me, that doesn't do justice to what actually happens. The action is insane, and Tom Cruise is a goddamn lunatic. And I hope he keeps doing this for the next 30, 40 years, even though he's like 65 now or whatever. But if this is the last one, that's okay. It's a great send off. But definitely enjoyable, but slightly disappointing, especially that first hour. Overall, I'd give this one a solid 7 on 10. It's a good movie. It's enjoyable. It's definitely lesser tier Mission Impossible, and there definitely are better Mission Impossible films, including the one that happened just before this with Dead Reckoning. But overall, I did like Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Give it a solid 7 on 10. I think you'll enjoy it as well if you're a Mission Impossible fan, and I definitely advise seeing this in the theater on IMAX on the biggest screen possible. All right, that's it for me now. This is Corey Van Castle, Cook of the Movie Chumps, and I'll see y'all guys next time.